Coming up, this week, President Emmanuel Macron of France rolled through London in a golden carriage, honoured guest of King Prince Charles and his consort. But the pomp and pageantry extended to a foreign leader seemed to me like a poor smokescreen attempting to hide the fact that the post-Brexit UK is no longer of much importance in a global context. For all the positive mood music about the UK's relationship with France, Starmer spent the entire week trying to avoid any mention of Brexit. Stay tuned. Please remember to give this video a like, check that you're subscribed to the channel, leave a comment below and share a link on your social media. Access to my videos will always remain free, but if you want to support the channel further, you might think about joining the membership program, which offers perks like early access to videos, members only content and priority replies to your comments. There's a link below for further details. So Emmanuel Macron came to London this week and was treated to the full royal circus. A horse-drawn coach, a state banquet, an awkward small talk with Charlie Windsor. And we're told that this is statecraft, diplomacy, a means of rebuilding the special relationship, the entente cordiale between the UK and France. And it's true that compared to the sneering idiocy of Liz Truss, who couldn't even decide whether Macron and France were friend or foe, it is a step in the right direction. For all their faults, Starmer's Labour government at least remembers how to be polite in a room full of grown-ups. That's progress, I suppose. But let's not kid ourselves. Behind all the finery and royal spectacle, the truth is that Britain is no longer the power it was, even as recently as 2016. And everyone, bar our top politicians, seems to know why. Any normal human being recognises that perhaps there might be some kind of link to when we gave the finger to Europe, kicked over our seat at the European table and stomped off waving a Union Jack, Nigel Farage cheering on from the sidelines as we went. And now we're just hoping anyone will throw us a lifeline and listen to what we have to say. Trump's America knows it, the EU knows it, and Macron's France knows it. But the British political class are in denial, both the ones who delivered the Brexit calamity and the ones with the red rosettes who now refuse to fix it. Starmer's current stance will never give us back the power which Brexit took away from us. Macron may not be popular, but he sits right at the heart of a 27-nation economic superpower. When he speaks to Washington or Beijing, he does so with the weight of a bloc behind him that can influence global markets. But the British Prime Minister greets global leaders with nothing but a handshake and a faint whiff of desperation. Sovereignty, more like supplication. This week's state visit of President Macron to the UK was presented as a success, a new dawn for UK-France relations, une entente réforgée. But what we actually got was a vague nod from Macron about helping us stop small boats crossing the Channel. Some swaps of randos with asylum seekers in France with a genuine connection to Britain, capped at 50 a week out of the 800 that arrive on average across the Channel in small boats each week. If I was a desperate migrant, I'd take those odds and wouldn't see it as much of a deterrence. That's why I'm so sceptical that this plan will ever work, even if it proves legal. But this now counts as the high point of post-Brexit diplomacy, begging France to do more of our dirty work while we pretend that Brexit allowed us to take back control. In reality, it allowed the opposite, for Britain to lose any control. Because let's be honest, even if Macron does want to help, there's only so much he can do. Because France isn't acting alone, it has to use its influence to get the EU to agree to the proposed arrangements, as the arrangements would potentially affect other EU member states. And Britain is no longer in the EU, remember? We left. Sovereignty in it, they said. Take back control, they said. What they didn't say was that Brexit meant losing our influence at the top table and therefore having to beg France to do what they can to help us. Nothing like the sweet smell of taking back control, laced with a hint of sovereignty. The bumbling buffoon Boris Johnson and his oven-ready deal gave away every advantage that EU membership bestowed on us in exchange for what? A blue passport and happy British fish. After a year of the Starmer government, has he shown any sign of admitting the scale of the Brexit disaster? Of course not. Make Brexit work, he's fond of saying. Emmanuel Macron's English is very good, so he could translate that phrase easily enough. And the translation of make Brexit work is, of course, please don't shout at me, Daily Mail readers. Starmer is too scared to say the word rejoin, even as his own Office for Budget Responsibility and every economic indicator screams it at him. Our inevitable application for EU membership at some point won't be just about trade, it'll be about influence and, more importantly, the role Britain plays in a post-Trump world where to rely on a stable America is just plain bonkers. With a Europhobic ticket of Trump and his sidekick Shady Vance in the White House, Europe, including the UK, needs unity and cooperation. Trump's constant U-turns on Ukraine and his on-off bromance with Putin should terrify us. Europe needs the ability to stand alone without relying on Trump's America economically or militarily. And Macron, for all his faults, is pushing that agenda. Starmer, he's still suffering from the delusion that Britain could possibly flatter its way back into Trump's permanent protection while simultaneously trying to keep France on side as a fallback. Macron gets a state visit in July, Trump gets one in September. The fact that Macron came first is perhaps supposed to show Trump that we do still have friends in Europe. Friends, yes, but without all the guarantees afforded by membership of the EU. We traded that for the fantasy of independence, but instead just achieved the reality of isolation and not being a part of a larger, more powerful bloc. Brexit was an economic act of vandalism that also diminished our soft power in the world. But our current government are still pretending we can make this Tory Brexit work. I don't blame Macron for smiling and playing along, why wouldn't he? The UK is no longer in a position to influence the EU. When we go crawling to France to extract concessions on migration or ask France to fight on our behalf within the EU, Macron knows that France can extract major concessions from the UK in return. Brexit can 100% be blamed on the Tory party alone. It was, after all, a result of Prime Minister David Cameron trying to solve the civil war within his party. But even then, it was only originally a loony fringe in the Tory party that even saw European membership as a serious political issue. But then along came Farage to stir up the issue by linking our EU membership with mass immigration. An entirely false link, by the way, which I think is now pretty obvious to even the most dyed-in-the-wool Brexit voter. But soon, thanks to the Tory party and to Farage, the whole British electorate had incredibly strong opinions on this previously irrelevant issue that, at the time of the referendum, they knew sod all about and voted with their heart rather than any in-depth knowledge and understanding of the issue. And to be fair, that's true of Leave and Remain voters, let's be honest. So thank you, David Cameron. Thank you, Nigel Farage. We'll never forget the service you provided to your country. Except a large proportion of the electorate have forgotten Farage's role in the Brexit disaster, judging by the latest polls. It's quite incredible. And Labour? They still appear too scared to speak the truth, that Brexit is an ongoing catastrophe. It weakens us economically, diplomatically and militarily.
Welcome to the Brexit, sir. I'm sorry.
Oh my God.